That thing that you should be doing. You know what I'm talking about. That one thing that you should be doing. You already feel it when I mention it. And you know what it is. You didn't forget it. You just dismissed it. It feels super important, but could you just not care? So I read this book, or 30 days ago, I read this book for, I think, the third time. It's called The Alchemist. You probably already know the book. And it's about this guy from Andalusia, from Spain, called Santiago, that has this vision or this dream that he has to go to the pyramids in Egypt. Then he encounters some omens that tells him that he should go, so he ends up leaving his hometown to go to Egypt. And along the way, a lot of random things happen to him, and I'm not gonna ruin the book for you if you want to read it yourself. But basically, he goes on his life's journey, and he does it because he found his purpose. And a lot of people think that finding your purpose is the biggest tragedy that you can have in your life. But I think that this book, and I think a thing that a lot of people miss, is that the tragedy is not finding your life's purpose. It's finding it and not pursuing it, or talking yourself out of it. In my estimation, most people see The Alchemist as some sort of happy, good feeling book. And you feel super inspired for a weekend or even a week, but then you just, if you use the terms from the book, you just go back to the crystal shop. Because they think that the universe conspires to help you is some sort of magic, but it's not magic. I think it's a whole different thing. I think it's engineering. And what it's trying to teach you is to commit to your life's purpose, because that commitment changes the filter that your mind uses to see the world. It's almost like you're in a big dark warehouse and you have a flashlight, and there's a bunch of boxes laying around in the warehouse. There's 1,000 doors, a lot of things in here, but it's completely dark. And you haven't turned on your flashlight, so you cannot see where you're going. And I think that the whole goal of this book is to turn on the flashlight so you can actually see what your possibilities are. And that commitment and that belief that the book teaches you that you should have, that is turning on the light so you can see your goals. And there's a lot of overlap between The Alchemist, The Secret, Think and Grow Rich, all of these books that are extremely popular, but are very controversial as well, because especially a lot of successful people say that it's nothing without taking action. But I think what it's really trying to teach you is to open your vision so you actually have the perception to see where you're going. And even better is that it shows you that it's possible. And there's nothing more painful than seeing something that is possible and then not being able to decide to go for it. So if I put it in other terms, perception without the execution is the most painful thing you can have. Because at the end of the day, Santiago in the book, he didn't have a spreadsheet or a way to calculate what his next move was, but rather he used direction, he used mentors, he just took the next step, and then he corrected on what he was doing. And it shows you that the map can reveal itself if you just move forward. And that is also a little bit of the contention here, is moving forward. Because a lot of the things that people usually do when they read The Secret or Think and Grow Rich or The Alchemist, they think, now I know my personal legend, so I have to go all in. And that's good for the mindset that you put into it. But you have to realize that in the book, Santiago also had to work at the crystal shop. He had to stay in the oasis for a very long time. And that is necessary because it funds the next leg of the journey. Just like your job now, or whatever you're doing, is funding the next step of your journey. Even if you have a successful business right now, this is probably not what you're going to do for the rest of your life. So it's funding and it's teaching you how to take the next steps. So it doesn't mean that you're stuck anywhere. It just means that this is the leg of the journey that you're on. And the only thing you need to realize is that you cannot be stuck at one of these places. You always have to have the vision to keep moving forward, because all of these stops are going to tempt you with the fact that this could be a reasonable life to live. It can be stable, it can be beautiful, maybe there's real love here, just like in the crystal shop for Santiago. It's stable there, he could stay there, there's no problem. Or in the oasis, it's super beautiful. Or in the oasis as well, he has Fatima, the love of his life. It could be beautiful. He could be there for the rest of his life and just have children and have a big family and be an important person in the whole oasis, but he chooses to follow his personal legend. And I think that's one of the most important things that the book is trying to teach as well. It's the comfort that you feel along the way is not going to announce itself as the thing that kills your trajectory going forward, but rather it announces itself as, I am the final stop, you can take your rest now. But the thing is, in the book, even after Santiago speaks to the sun, to the wind, to earth, to everything, to the hand, just a short while after, he almost gets beaten to death by thieves. And the whole personal legend is not about finding comfort. It's about finding your adventure, even though that adventure doesn't promise you anything good. The only thing it promises you is that it's going to show you who you really are. And that is the whole trade that you're doing. And when he finally gets to Egypt, he realizes that his treasure was buried at his hometown all the way from the start. And that is also a bit of the funny thing is, probably you're going to have the adventure of a lifetime, and then you come back home and realize that everything was there all the time. But you had to go to figure it out. You can't figure it out from staying there. So you have to go. So an example from when I was younger, I always had my teachers telling me that I would probably be a teacher when I was older. And I laughed my ass off at them. But as I'm growing older, I'm understanding that they saw something that I didn't see. There was all these signs that I sort of knew what I was going to do. And I've always had feelings for different things that I was going to do, which you could probably call my omens. And I just never knew the vocabulary to use these kind of words. And that's what the Alchemist gave me most of all. It just gave me a good way to describe the decisions and the feelings that I had over the decisions. And it gave me a vocabulary for it. Because omens sounds very spiritual and woo-wah, but I think what it actually is just another way for saying data that you receive is valuable, especially if it's repeated data or repeated patterns. And what you should do is you should treat those patterns as real signal and not as just coincidences that are deeply practical. So one of the takeaway things that you get from this book is simple decision mechanisms, is simple decision hierarchies, like asking yourself, truly asking your conscious, is this actually fulfilling my personal legend or not? And the personal legend is one of those other words that sounds very bombastic and grand and mysterious, but it's just listening to your conscious. And that will tell you if you're getting pulled off the path that you should be on. And if you can't articulate why it is how it is, then listen to your omens because they know something that you don't. And you have to stop waiting to see the full map before you do something. Because nobody ever had the full map. You just have to go one direction, shine your light in the warehouse, go one direction, bump into boxes, find mentors that are going to tell you go this way or that way, take the next step, and then correct when you do something wrong. That's the whole system. And you have to recognize when you're in the crystal shop. And with crystal shop, I just meant a stationary period where you're going to be somewhere that funds the next run of your adventure. You have to use it, you have to extract from it, you have to take everything that you can from that place and use that to fund everything else that you are going to do in the future. Learn skills, set up whatever you can, connections, and extract as much as you can. But the moment you start decorating the crystal shop as if it's your own home, that's when you're in real danger. So you have to keep listening and pay attention to your omens. What kind of things keep coming back as signal? Which recurring patterns in your life do you see that show you where you should go next? Because at the end of the day, you'll understand that the real alchemy is not turning lead into gold, but rather it's an internal transformation. And all the external results that you get from it is just proof that the alchemy came from inside. And I bet when I say this, you already know what your direction is. You know the direction, you know where you're going. Make sure that you go there, listen to your omens, and stop decorating the crystal shop and start walking towards your personal legend.